But to know that there were people like you and me who did this makes people very uncomfortable. Goodness makes us squirm, is what I learned from O'Connor. That people are very uncomfortable seeing someone like them do something that they cannot do themselves or choose not to do themselves. And the fact that somebody like you has done it demands that you look at yourself in a way that you don't want to look at yourself. And I think that's why the book is rejected 23 times.
It is true, we are living through a watershed moment, a turning point in our personal lives and for our world community. There are critical concerns we need to address as individuals, as a nation, and as humans sharing one planet. My goal with Spread Goodness is not to deny what's true and scary in our world, but possibly offset some of the negativity we consume on a daily basis by showcasing what is good in our world. There's a lot of it. Perhaps it will replenish us, remind us who we are at the core of being human. What a miracle it is to be here on this planet at this moment in time, and possibly inspire us to do what we can to make our world a better place. This is Spread Goodness TV. In part 1 of this episode, I sat down with Rabbi Malka Drucker to discuss her book, Rescuers: Portraits of Moral Courage in the Holocaust. It's hard to imagine good news in the time of the Holocaust, but if there was any, these people embody it. They teach us what we as humans are capable of when faced with what seems to be impossible choices, and to quote Malka, endure risks beyond what one wants to imagine. But as Malka said, the one common thread she witnessed in all these rescuers she and her co-author Gabe Block interviewed was they couldn't not do it. She said it was as if they had an allergy to standing by, an intolerance to injustice. It's hard to imagine what we might have done had we been in these rescuers' shoes. Would we have done the same? While Malka considers this question, she says the harder question to face within herself is, what am I doing now? For me, one of the most poignant things Malka said in the first part of this interview was that the rescuers were like a teardrop in an ocean of indifference. I would like to believe our collective consciousness has evolved since then, that the ocean of indifference may have transformed into an ocean of rescuers in this generation, and may indifference only be reflected in a relative teardrop. To me, this interview and the stories of these rescuers call upon us all to ask ourselves, what am I doing now? Thank you for joining us in part 2, as Malka recounts more stories of these rescuers' harrowing experiences. Are there any stories that stand out to you or that seem to be singed in your memory?
Well, I don't remember all of them.
Okay.
There are 49.
49 in this book?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. All the photographs are in there, all 111 people.
Okay.
There are certain, this is an hard one. So at different times I'll remember different stories. So this is an odd one that I'm remembering right now. I'll share with you. So, I'm trying to think if she's there. Let me see. This woman is very interesting. She wrote her own book, Irene Updike. She was an interior decorator. She was Polish. She was 18 when she was basically imprisoned, by the Nazis. Mm-hmm. And she was in a major's house, as a housekeeper, and of course she had to sleep with him. She was 18 years old, and he had 19 Jews living in his basement. He didn't know it. That's what she did. Yeah.
You are kidding me.
So, and then I think she said, I have to reread the interview. I have some idea that maybe he knew and allowed it. And there was something about that. So she was very interesting. Marion Pritchard was Dutch. She was a psychoanalyst. We met her in Vermont. She was among the youngest. She was not 60, I think, when we met her. And she was 18 years old in the School of Social Work in Amsterdam. And she did come from a good family. And she was raised with tolerance. And she also said, and socially, none of my parents' friends were Jews. I mean, there were those, you know. Mm-hmm. And she's riding her bicycle, and she sees this German truck stop in front of a nursery school. And she sees the soldiers get out and go into the building, and she's on her bicycle, is watching this, stopped. And she sees them come down with these little children and throws them into the back of the truck, like sacks of potatoes.
Oh my God.
And the two teachers come down and try to stop them, and they get thrown in too. Oh, and she's paralyzed on her bicycle. She can't do anything. And at that moment she says, I will never be paralyzed again in a situation like this, and became a rescuer and hid children. And she tells a story. She's out in the country with 3 children. And they 3 Jewish children, and knock on the door, and in comes the Nazi and the Dutch collaborator, who knows, but she knows they're gonna, and she has a hole in the floor, puts a carpet over it, the kids go down there, and it's all good. The kids come out, and the collaborator is smart enough to come back, unexpected, unannounced, and there are the children, and she has a pistol.
Wow.
And she shoots him.
Wow.
And now we have a body. She goes to the local undertaker, who happened to have a funeral the next day, and that's where the collaborator went.
Oh my goodness.
And nobody in the entire village really cared that they never saw him again or what happened, because everybody knew he was a collaborator.
Wow.
So that was her, and you could see her as a totally nice-looking woman. Can't imagine. Always regretted having to kill somebody.
I'm sure.
So those are 2 stories that come to mind off the top of my head, because I think of these people that were so young, younger than my grandchildren, doing this work.
It's amazing.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Yeah, and there were amazing stories of, having a child on his shoulders. He's 14 years old, and he's going to lose toes because he's walking through snow, but he's going to save this child, Yeah, amazing stories.
Amazing stories.
Yeah.
Of what, yeah.
Yeah, I think that every night we'd go out after doing like 3-4 interviews, and we'd drink a bottle of wine between us. I've never done that before since.
Yeah, I get it.
Just
you need to somehow breathe it out, breathe through it.
Right. Exactly. Yeah, I mean,
release the hold it can have on you.
Right, and while I'm in the interview, I'm fine. Everything is okay.
Of course.
I get back into the car, it's like just sobbing.
Yeah.
One of the rescuers had this wonderful line. I believe everybody's a piano, like a piano with many keys, and I'm just glad my high notes got played. Yeah.
Living the highest version of our existence.
Right, and that was the other thing that I wrote, I think, in the introduction. You might remember I said, I came through the 60s. It's a time of great idealism, and all I ever wanted was to look like these people in their old age, to say that for once in my life, I did the right thing. Yeah.
I can appreciate that. I think we're placed here on Earth for a lot of reasons, but I definitely think one of those reasons is to make a difference.
There was something in them that just was, for once I did the right thing.
Yeah.
There's a great story actually in Torah of when the Pharaoh is killing, every Jewish baby that's born, or the male babies. Right. The story goes that Moses' parents, before he's conceived, divorce, so they won't have another child. It might be a male child that would be killed, and two older siblings, Aaron and Miriam. And Miriam, who was a midwife with her mother, helped her mother, says to her father, "You're worse than Pharaoh, because you want to stop all Jewish babies." And they remarry, and then Moses is born. So that, yeah, it's a great story of rescue. Yeah, it's a great story of rescue.
Huh.
Yeah. So I think that, but it also points to our natural caution to not put ourselves in danger, and that, as you wisely point out, Lisa, there are times when you override it. You choose to override the natural self-preservation we all have.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's the only choice you can make.
One rescuer said to me, this is wonderful, it's a couple. They made the point that they could do what they did because they were a couple. And they were upbeat, they were optimistic. And they could support each other in doing this work. And they tell me this story. They have a 5-year-old child, it's kindergarten, and she goes to the bus stop to wait for the bus every day. And they put a note in her pocket. They're part of the resistance. And one of the resistance people are going to come along before the child is picked up by the bus and take the note.
Okay.
And she tells me this story, and I think, oh my God,
This child. Yeah.
wow. How could you do that with children? You risk your own lives as well as the child's, you know. And I'll never forget the look on her face, Yochevas, just, we did this because we had children.
Right.
So that they would know that no matter what happened, they would know what it means to be a human being and what you have to do. I know, isn't it amazing? Yeah. Yeah.
Wow. One of the things I know I have tabbed here is that you were first asked to do this for a children's book.
That's right.
For children.
That's right.
But you didn't do it for children. You ended up, this is the book
I
that
couldn't
you created.
sell it. Nobody wanted it.
Okay.
Nobody. No, I mean, I had publishers and everything, and
Wow.
no, you know, and
You actually have a manuscript of this as a version for children?
no, I didn't. No, it was more of feeling it out and
Concept.
going, you know. And,
Yeah.
I told you my agent's response to
Yeah,
the
right.
subject, and that's when we decided, no, we're going to do this as an adult book, and then the juvenile came out a year later.
Oh, they did
Jacob's Rescue.
Okay, right.
It's the one story.
Right.
Like Number of the Stars was fiction.
Yes.
The book that I did was a Holocaust story because I had to invent dialogue to make it a story. But otherwise, the facts of it were absolutely true.
Okay.
Yeah.
Would you ever consider
Doing a juvenile?
doing a juvenile version of this?
Somebody,
Still?
you know, years ago, I think Scholastic approached me about this, and I don't remember what happened. Somebody did do, Milton Meltzer did a book for kids about rescue, as it was. But you know, I have no idea whether there would be any market for it today. But I do think it is an important example. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And especially there are so many stories that, like the ones that I've told you, that involve children. You know, yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I have a few pages I'd love to read a few quotes that really stood out to me. This one talks about indifference. Yet it is the nature of indifference itself that bewilders. How is it that indifference, which on its own does no apparent or immediate positive harm, ends by washing itself in the very horrors it means to have nothing to do with? Hoping to confer no hurt, indifference finally grows lethal. Why
Beautiful.
is that?
That's Cynthia Ozick, not me. And yeah, I thought that was brilliant. I mean, you know, it was funny at the time when we got this from her, and she wouldn't allow one word to be changed. It wasn't edited at all, and it could have been, but still, I mean, at the time, I don't think I really appreciated until this moment in time the importance and the wisdom of her words there. And then that's the struggle of how do we continue to really seize and love this life and still do the work. There's no book that's going to tell you how to live your life that you're going to come out on. But I do know when I met these people, I wanted to at least feel that in my own life, and I am not sure I've answered it for myself, that I could feel at the end of it that I had shown up for where we needed to show up. And that really is the thing.
Yes, I agree.
And
I laugh. I laugh a little because I look at you, and I have only known you, I would say, less than a handful of days that I've actually spent time with you. And from the small amounts of time, I can see a world of difference that you've already made in your lifetime. So
thank you.
You're a very impressive human being, and you're doing a lot with your life.
Thank you. Well, it's very nice to hear. I'm also thinking for myself, I don't really want to assuage the feeling. I want to sort of keep it.
That's fair.
Keep the fire to my feet.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I really respect that and honor that. Yeah. So Primo Levi from The Drowned and the Saved says, whoever sheltered or even simply assisted a Jew risked terrifying punishment. In this regard, it is only right to remember that a few thousand Jews survived through the entire Hitlerian period, hidden in Germany and Poland in convents, cellars, and attics by citizens who were courageous, compassionate, and above all, sufficiently intelligent to observe for years the strictest discretion. And this really just tells us that how few there really were, and and if there were a lot more, then how few were actually succeeded.
That's right.
At their mission to
That's
save.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. Remember, I mean, there were those that did this work and didn't survive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Also, in your introduction on page 15, you wrote, although the rescuers suffered during the war, many spoke of enjoying occasional good times. Which you imagine the horror of Nazi Germany and the Holocaust, and you just imagine it's all just horrendously awful for everyone every day.
Depends on your perspective.
And
you're better off being a rescuer than the hidden.
Right. And that's what you wrote here.
Right.
Of course, the people they helped may not remember things quite the same way because despite the shared experience, their roles were so different. Regardless of the hardships endured by the rescuers, they at least possessed some control over their lives. They had chosen to put themselves at risk while the hunted Jew was entirely dependent upon others for survival.
That's right. So every time I did an interview where the saved and the rescuer were together, it really was two universes.
Wow.
Yeah. Living in the same house and all that, but the experience, really different.
I would only imagine so. And you don't do you have any of these on film, these interviews, or are
all
they
of
all? You do have all of them on film.
There is a film
wow.
that I have somewhere.
Yeah.
If you go to Gay Block's website, I am 99% sure that you'll be able to see some of these clips. Okay. We have a 20-minute film and then a 46-minute film, because every interview was recorded, and all of the recordings are at the Holocaust Museum in Washington.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's important.
No, I mean, I think that, it's funny, we sort of, I'm not an academic, and I sort of step into this work like, oh, whoa, and then we're like 25% into the book, and somewhere it occurs to us, let's ask for, do they have pictures of the time? Like and oh yeah, and they come out with these pictures, and Gay photographs them, like on balconies, wherever there's enough light, she photographs the images. But then there were the 25% we never asked. Now we have to write them. I mean, this is long before internet. Remember, it's like, okay, write them. Do you have any pictures?
Right.
And they sent us the pictures.
Good. Wow.
And we sent them back.
Wow, yeah.
And none of them got lost. I mean, it was amazing.
Yeah, that is amazing.
It was amazing. So, but somewhere, thank God, we understood. And Gay was very into, oral history. So she, videoing, she was comfortable with all of it. That we knew that we should do that. But nobody did this. I mean, to this day, as far as I know.
It's hard
Spielberg
to believe.
has done the recordings the survivors.
Right.
But I don't think anybody ever did the recordings of the.
Yes, I absolutely think this should be taught in schools.
Yeah, no,
Absolutely,
yeah,
because we all
yeah.
have this responsibility.
That's right. No, I think that's exactly right. No, it's a good point. It's a good point. Well, you inspire me to think about.
Okay,
some
I'll
other
help in
days.
some way if I can, because I would love to see that happen.
Great. I have spoken to. I mean, I've gone for years to schools and with Jacob's Rescue to talk about from that story. Yeah.
Yeah, it's incredibly important
Yeah.
in my view. My grief remains predominant that we did not stop it, that we destroyed ourselves. A community which destroys a part of itself on purpose out of hatred gives itself up. It degenerates. This happened in our country. It struck all of us. Even if many among us did not notice it at all and did not want to notice, it directly concerned us, even if it was not directed against us. I have the chills. I mean, that's...
Yeah. Thank you for reminding me. That's right. Yeah, and you think about now. I mean,
It's haunting to
right.
read that, actually.
It really is to at this moment in time and realizing
Yeah.
that all of us will fall victim to this moment. All of us. Yeah. You know, the Jewish version of the Messiah is this is not a supernatural, natural being. This is just like you and me, flesh and blood. And my mother explained to me when I was very, very young that that I understood that the Messiah maybe appears in every generation. It depends on a generation to be enlightened enough to recognize this one.
Sure.
And until that day comes, that you know who to listen to, who can lead you to the light. We're going to continue to go to the default, and be reactive. So, yeah. Yeah.
When I was growing up, nobody ever shared this viewpoint with me. It was just something I believed then, and I still believe is that, and you tell me if I'm using the word in the correct manner, but this is just what I believed. But when I thought of Messiah, I just felt like I think the Messiah is when we all of us are.
Exactly.
That.
Exactly. That
It can't be just one person.
The
it has to
Messianic
be
era,
when we
exactly.
all rise to that occasion.
The Messianic era is when we all, that's exactly the same perspective.
Okay.
That when we all become awake enough to understand that we just can't keep killing each other. And evil is the will to dominate. And it's that simple. It's that all of us have it in us.
Yeah. I know that's true.
Yeah, all of us have it in us. But if we're not aware of it, we're going to continue to make the same mistakes over and over.
Yeah. I believe that we all have that in us. And
Right.
I
think that bringing heroes into the forefront and, really pointing out to people so that we all begin to feel
Recognize
that
it.
sense that I got when I started meeting these people.
Yes, yes.
Boy, I don't know that I could have done what you did. Well, nobody knows what you can do, you just have to do it.
Yes.
Yeah. Yep. Yep.
Good way to bring it together. And this is the final one. This is actually, I keep opening up to her page, actually.
Interesting. She was very interesting.
Just like you did to that one page you were
That's
looking
right,
for. I
interesting.
keep opening up to
Wow.
her.
Wow.
And when I'm like, oh, who was that? And where was that quote that I
so
read
interesting.
first when I first opened it up?
Interesting.
And again, I opened it up.
Wonderful.
So the quote that I read when I first cracked this book open, at your house still, was, again, Helene Jacobs.
Right.
I am often asked how I had the strength to stand so firmly in the face of such risk on the side of the persecuted Jews. My answer is that I followed my drive for, I'm getting teary-eyed just reading it. My answer is that I followed my drive for self-preservation.
If Hitler had already destroyed my country, I wanted at least to keep my personal world intact. My personal world intact. I always knew how dangerous it was, but I did it for humanity and because I was a patriot. I was ashamed of what the German people were doing. During that time, the forces of injustice pervaded everything. These were the forces which came from the outside. Could we then regain the destroyed community from the inside?
Yeah. Yeah. The woman, Gita Bauer, who won this great prize for the work she did on the riots in Harlem that she wrote about for this German magazine. When she spoke to me, I mean, normally I would sit with somebody and I would just go for their heart. I'll get the facts later. I'll get it from Yad Vashem, but I want to hear what it felt like to be you. So I'd always go into that. And somehow with her, when I sat with her, I didn't want to go right into her heart. I felt that she was already suffering. And she died 8 months after we interviewed her. She was 67 years old.
Wow.
But I could feel, you know, she felt the weight of it. She said, we did it.
Wow.
We did it. And she saved one, her best friend, who was a Jew. And when Yad Vashem came to her and said, we want to give you the medal, you know, the attestation, I only saved one. She said, well, wait, did that one marry? That one have children? Other grandchildren? You know, you didn't save one. And I could feel her, you know. So Gita Bauer is a very powerful, read her.
I will.
Yeah,
Okay.
she's very powerful, yeah. They rescued, what I think I wrote in there something, they rescued the honor of humanity. They rescued our belief in what we were capable of as human beings. And that to me remains the most powerful part of it for me, is that, yeah, if they could do this, you know, yeah, I have to ask myself, what can I, you know, what can I bring forth, you know, yeah.
Yes.
And, yeah, they were, yeah, I was lucky. I was lucky.
And we're lucky. Thank you for this gift.
Oh,
Because we all benefit from this.
and I'm very grateful to you for awakening in me again, you know, really these are remarkable people. You know, as I wrote in the beginning,
The importance of sharing their stories.
that's right, that every generation requires 36. And there they are. Yep. Yep.
Thank you, Malka.
You're welcome. Thank you, Lisa.
This is really put me to shame, you know, this word, who saves one life, saves the whole life. And when I came, and when I talked to Yitzhak Ben Ari and said, my God, I have saved only one, I can't even talk about it. I said, well, you'll see, this is, I am still ashamed for my people, my country. Still ashamed. Deeply. And it doesn't help me that I was able to save one life. It doesn't help. We did it.
Next time on Spread Goodness TV.
You can't find it here, you can't find it. There's lots of good things on the menu.
Yeah.
Everything's made in-house from scratch.
This just adds to the experience because now there's ways to interact with the environment. My gosh, thank you. It looks amazing. Cheers.
Help us build our online community. Follow us on Instagram and Facebook, and consider subscribing to our YouTube channel. If you would like to support our ability to provide uplifting content inspired by members of this community and communities around the world, please consider becoming a sponsor. For more information, email Lisa at spreadgoodness.love or Visit spreadgoodness.love/sponsor.